Welcome to another episode of the Transformation Leaders Podcast. I'm Sean Ennis. Joined as usual is my partner in crime, David Soden. And today we're going to be answering a question that we've been getting a lot from people. Sean, we've been hearing what you're doing. David, what have you been doing? Love to see how you're building and the things that you're on right now. Love to hear more about it.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the introduction. And I have been like a Keebler elf in a tree, hanging out, mad scientist, building a bunch of crazy stuff, only to find out that 800-pound gorillas, namely Google, Visa, MasterCard, Meta, and a whole bunch of others, have been secretly building something successfully and unsuccessfully at the same time. So it wasn't a lost effort. There's a lot of lessons learned. So as you may have seen, if you're following me on LinkedIn, I got Beacon Spec there. I'm co-founder and serving a CTO role right now for Beacon Spec. And the problem that we're trying to solve with regards to the standards and things of that nature is trying to solve this problem of a discovery layer for agentic commerce. And what that means is if you are an individual, you may use ChatGPT because that's the one that everybody knows. That's the one that started this whole fiasco in 2024 or late 2023 even. And so as a result of that, these chatbots, chat agents, whatever you want to call them or whatever you're familiar with, they are now starting to get to the point where you can actually have them do things on your behalf. Everything that Siri was supposed to be originally. As a matter of fact, Amazon, through their Alexa ecosystem, recently lit up some of these technology capabilities. So if you're on Alexa, know that you can actually now use Alexa for a lot of the commerce specifically gated to just Amazon. So that's wonderful and great if you're an Amazon consumer, and I am myself as well. But I also buy things from other places. What about if you have a leaky faucet in your sink and you need to get a plumber out there? Well, you could ask ChatGPT, hey, I need a plumber in my area. I need somebody that's highly rated. What can I do? And so that part of that inquiry would simply before just run out and run a Google search, just like you would. And so essentially you've got a digital assistant is at best what it would do, but it wouldn't do anything for you other than just source and find information. Now, what we've done and what we've solved, and then what also these 800-pound gorillas has solved, is they've figured out a way to get these agents that are representing the consumers and trying to get those businesses that also want to get out there, want to expose their business, grow their business, because AI commerce is coming. And it's barely here. It's in its infancy stages, so you still have plenty of time to act. But the problem is when this thing flips and the switch goes, probably I'm guessing towards 3/4 of the way or third quarter of this year, possibly the end of this year. And if it's really laggard, as late as maybe second quarter 2027. But somewhere in that time frame, it is going to go from off to on, and you need to be ready today, because when that switch gets flipped, if you're not there, as you know, if you're not listed in the first page of Google on a Google search, chances are you're not going to be found. So you want to get in and do this early. And this is where Beacon Spec comes in, and the problems that we've built, not the problems that we've built, the problems that we've solved with what we've built is available to essentially have you just flip a couple of switches. So the boring stuff, I'm not going to get into the technical details, but this is a technical page that says, hey, this is where I've lived for the last couple of months, writing these specs, working with these organizations such as the IETF to make sure that these standards are there, working with governing bodies to make sure this is all copacetic, only to find out that those 800-pound gorillas also built something, which is this spec right here. And all this means is that Agent A, representing consumers, can talk to Agent B, representing the businesses trying to sell their products, services, and wares. And you notice that I said commerce and not just e-commerce, because if we look at who created this UCP, or that Universal Commerce Protocol, Google, in direct collaboration with Shopify, which is a traditional e-com shop, and major retailer brands like Etsy, Target, Walmart, and Wayfair. This is what UCP was designed for, but it doesn't work necessarily for the plumbers. It doesn't work for Joe Blow and the pizza shop down the corner. And so this is still a hole. And this is where Beacon Spec comes in to try to bridge the gap, but still use the UCP standard that is now the standard. And so what we've done is we've created a platform. Let me kind of walk you through what that looks like, keeping it about as simple as I can. So if you're a business, just whatever your business is and does, if you have any APIs that customers or consumers can use, would be or representing your API data on whatever platform you have. It could be custom, it could be another platform. So for example, if you're a plumber, you might be using a platform like Service Titan or Jobber. There's another one called House Call Pro, I think. Anyway, those are examples of platforms. Now they have APIs, but there's no way for an agent to use them today. And so then this is where Beacon Spec comes in. We have an MCP platform that it takes the API and converts it into an MCP with just a few clicks. That way, all of those agents representing those customers out there can now talk to your platform, can now talk to whatever it is that you've got going on. Now, this is just a one-to-one pairing, one back end, one front end, and it stays simple just like this. But what if you've got a more enterprise custom environment where you might still have that same platform type of source? Could be maybe Microsoft Dynamics 365 or Power Platform or whatever you've got going on there. Could be Salesforce or HubSpot, any number of things, right? But then you also have some custom things that you've built, and maybe you've got an ERP platform. Could be something like your accounting system, accounting and payroll, accounting and whatever. It may be a use case or scenario where you want to bridge all of these different backends to a single gate called an MCP. And this is so that the agents, consumers, employees, any number of things. Now you can authenticate these agents on behalf of the consumer or the employee or whoever they're representing. So it's not just wide open. It can be both open for whatever purpose it needs to serve if you don't need to have them authenticate, but you can also have them authenticated. So it's both secure and, or I wouldn't call it insecure, but unauthenticated. And so this is a more complicated version of it. Now we allow you we give you an interface that allows you to simplify this as much as possible. So a couple flips of the button. I'm going to give you a demo here in just a moment, but we've got a self-hosted flavor of it. And then we have a hosted version. Maybe, we'll host it for you, but the self-hosting is, I don't know, you're highly regulated, and you need to make sure that you host whatever it is, this MCP server in your platform. What we will do for you is we'll build you a Docker image, a Docker container. It's just an image. We're not running the instance at all. You'll run it in Kubernetes in your cloud, wherever that might be, but we'll just serve as the container registry. We'll create the snapshot image for you because our platform is where you turn on and off different features, add one or more of those backend API sources. So you may need to update the image every so often. And so when you do that, you just redeploy that image. And then on your production side, you simply just update your backend based on whatever image changes you've made on our platform. Again, if that's all too complicated and you want to go the simple route, we can also host it for you with the simple click of a button. All right, so with that being said, we have the ability for you to add multiple server configurations. So both of these use cases, this is just two, but it's unlimited. Right now, in theory, you can host as many of these as you want. You can bridge them all together. You can separate them out. Doesn't necessarily matter, but all of this is in a dashboard for you to control. So with that being said, I want to then take you into the platform that'll make a little bit more sense because I've walked you through some of the basics on the front end. So this is the dashboard that I talked about, right? And so this is the framing. Now we get to create our first MCP server. So I'll just call this example, and it'll create that new server. And now at this point, I need to start adding those sources. And so let's pick a source that I have. So I have this thing called Easy Panel. And I am going to go over here and I'll go to the API. Now, this is the user human friendly version of it. It is probably going to be scary or garbly-gook to most of you, especially this next link that I'm about to show, because this is the link I need. This is the crazy computer code that basically describes what this API is and does. This is known as a open API standard. And so we support both open API standards as well as GraphQL. So in this instance, all I got to do is add a source, and I'm going to give it a name. I'll call this one Easy Panel like I have. And now at this point, I'm going to pop in that JSON configuration. And if I had a file, that JSON file, I could just upload it. But in this case, I can put it and pull it in from a URL. So I'm going to add the source. Now what it's doing is it's going through the API and it's converting each of those endpoints into an MCP server. And again, the only reason for the MCP, it's a different way to interact with the API. And so as quickly as that, we've now converted API into a proper running MCP. There's a bunch of endpoints that are available in the API. And right now, every single one of these, 373 of them are on. But you can go in and cherry pick and turn off any functions that might not be relevant or things that you don't want to expose to the public through this MCP server. So you can turn on and off features as needed. And then when you're done, you can come over here and deploy it. I said earlier, you can deploy it one of two ways. We can host it for you. And if we do host it for you, you push a button, it builds the image, it builds everything that needs to be. And now all of a sudden we've got a MCP endpoint. Here is the health check to see if the server's up and running. So let's pop this in a browser and as we get the status okay. And so everything is good there. Now notice under endpoints, I have 369 of 373 of these deployed. So if I go over to this MCP endpoint, that's this URL right here, and I copy that out. If I come over here and I test the server now to see if it's up and running and alive, I put this over here in this area and I just use this streamable version and I'll hit connect. There's no authentication, but you can see there's a lot of API calls going on here, like way more than I need to. Like I can't imagine you'd need to have this many endpoints exposed, but if you did, you could go ahead and run all of this. Now this isn't going to run because I do require authentication and I need additional information and or parameters, but this is for the AI agent to decide. ChatGPT will see this, understand it. It will interact with the end user to acquire whatever information is needed to provide or perform that function. Going back to my plumber example, there was a use case where I just said, I got a leaky faucet, find me a plumber. And it'll go out to Google and it will search and it will figure out, hey, which plumbers are there? And it will also now, based on this UCP standard, understand if you're an AI agent, how to go to that website. Now, there's a very particular place on your website that you have to publish what's called a server card that lets Google, that lets all these other places know that, hey, I'm good to go. But you got to be a developer. You have to understand how to do this. Well, we also have you covered on that as well. If you come over here to server card, the server card gets generated for you automatically. All you need to do is download it. And then you just simply will upload it to your domain /.wellknown/UCP. And that's where you put this file in it. Now, if this is all too scary, we can provide a service for you to do this all turnkey for you. Otherwise, if you're somewhat or semi-technical and you're not a developer, but you just want to flip a switch, we can get you on the MCP backend. That quick, that easy. And again, if you want to deploy them, have us host it or you host it, all of this stuff is there for you. And of course, you can use tools like this to test with. We are not launched just yet, but I wanted to let you know what we're working on, how or what problems that we're trying to solve. And so with that being said, Sean, what do you think about, this is the first time you're seeing it. I've talked a little bit about it earlier, but I really didn't give you a peak or too much information because I just was head down doing all of this other stuff.
Well, I mean, this is very on brand for you, David. You and me have both been talking for quite some time that MCP is the new API.
Yep.
And the world has been very API first for quite some time. So the amount of APIs that are out there is innumerable. And everybody is trying to find the easy button for AI. And the easy button is right where you're landing, which is convert your APIs to MCP and then register them in a agent base on tools. And then the agents can pull the levers on API, and you do not need any glue code, right? The glue code is built into the MCP. So, this is the easy button for people who are like, how do I use AI with my traditional stack without adding a lot of technical debt? That is the lever. For me, having enterprises understand that AI is not about the biggest fish. It's the most amount of fish. You and me have perpetually seen people reach out and say, Sean, we invested everything on one project on AI and it didn't work. And I keep telling those people, it's not about a fish, it's about the school of fish. This is just the world we live in. Not every project is going to be successful. I know a lot of people are shocked at that. No matter how much you will it or want it, budgets, politics, technology, partnerships, vendors, resources, skill sets, all of these can trip you up. So it's not about the biggest use case. It's about the most amount of value throughout all the use cases. I joke that it's like Pokemon, you need to collect them all. So your strategy here is something of an easy button for AI adoption. And I understand that I'm sure Google is going to put this into their framework. I'm sure AWS is going to push this into their framework. But to be honest, how much are their platforms already adopted? And do you really want to do a rip and replace when you have APIs that are working today? Yep. So, my comment on your technology and approach is very simple. It comes down to, do you want to move fast or do you want to move slow?
Yep.
And I can tell you what I'm hearing is that investors, shareholders, board members are all asking their senior executives, we paid how much money for AI tokens? Where's the money at the end of the rainbow? So a lot of patience is being lost. A lot of people are seeing, despite what fluff is out there, AI does work. And it does and can provide value. And if your management team is not figuring out how to get value from it, there's only so many heads you can cut before they realize it's not the people underneath, it's the people up above. So, what I would tell a person looking at this is, do you want to move fast or you want to move slow? And if you've been moving slow already, you need let's just say, a double shot espresso in your AI adoption. And this is really good at that because you could sit somebody down, point and click with their API base and be able to create MCP servers. You can very quickly consume this into a knowledge base engine and say, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, and it will generate the prompts for you so that you can provide an outcome a lot quicker. I mean, I imagine this with a like a low code, no code, your favorite type of Microsoft Power platform, and you could solve so many small use cases incredibly quickly and efficiently so that 10, 15, 20 different business processes get minimized and you're generating a lot of value.
Yeah. And, one of the things that kind of was an inspiration for me, if I, that I have a course on Udemy for N8N and teaching all of that. Well, here's a back-end version of our N8N instance here. And if we go and look at some of the latest features that they've done, they have an instance level MCP. So you can use Claude Code now to create these workflows for you. You don't even have to go through and do all of that. And more importantly, when you flip the switch and you turn all of this stuff on, you can independently take this workflow. So for example, here's a quick drafted just test workflow that I was working on. But if we come under the settings for this, one of the switches that we can do is we can now expose that workflow to an MCP, which means now you can access this either credentialed or uncredentialed. And now your workflow is MCP enabled. Microsoft Power Platform, you have a connector that you can create an API endpoint, but there's no way to do anything like this in the Power Platform at this time. So this is where you'd come in and you would use a Beacon Spec to create that MCP layer in front of it. So there is a push into technology. This is happening abroad. And I just want to be clear that we're not replacing and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We don't have to, and you shouldn't throw out the API server. You just put a skin on and or around it to modernize it so that it can work in today's ecosystem for agent to agent. And again, the key success to this is your APIs have a lot of things that they're doing. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting. You don't need to expose all of those items. So you only cherry pick and select what you want out there. And that's so important. And the other powerful thing is that you can add multiple sources to this. So again, going back to this example is that I've got 1 source, 2 source, 3 sources here, all into one complex server because there's 3 endpoints. So whatever your configuration, whatever you're doing, this thing has you covered from end to end, and we've tried to build it with the most flexibility, but you can build anything and everything to cover just about every imaginable angle. But until you put this into practice, then you won't actually know where some of the skeletons in the closet are, where things might be a little bit of an issue. So right now we're in the pre-launch phase. There's no pricing, but what we are looking for is customers that want to work with us one-on-one. We'll set it up. We'll do all the work for free. We're basically looking for a couple of initial beta custom users. And so the benefit to that is you might get to use it immediately. Over the long term, if you get to the point where it's solid for you, start making money, then at some point we'll ask you, okay, now that you're being successful with it, you're making some money, here's our current pricing. We'll give you a discount off of that for participating and giving us that information. But right now it's completely free and open. So if anybody wants to test the waters, play with the system, provide us feedback, and essentially get free access to flip a switch that quick, as you saw, to put an API on the internet, expose just what you need to, either with a credential or without a credential, whatever that use case may be. Let us know, and we're more than happy to work with you on any of that. that's pretty much in a nutshell what I've been working on, short and sweet. So just looking for people to help.
I think this is a low risk, high quality, like I said, espresso shot for AI adoption that I know a lot of people are struggling with. They put a lot of investment on one or two use cases that didn't pan out, and someone's is going to need something like this to save their bacon.
Yeah, and the good news is, we're not using our own spec, so it's not proprietary at this stage. I'm actually kind of glad in hindsight that we had those 800-pound gorillas behind the technology. They might copy us down the road. They might not. It's not necessarily making them any money, but it is setting them up to make money for themselves and or others. So, again, if we look through, Target, Etsy, Walmart, they have self-interest. So does Shopify. And so they had to solve the problem like we did. There was a major, major problem that needed to be solved earlier this year. Unfortunately, we both worked on it at the same time, and I'm more than happy to bow down and out and let them take it. And we'll just build the solution on top of that so that there's complete growth. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on any of this as this evolves, and it is literally evolving as we talk. We're keeping up with all of these specifications, so this will all be built and baked into the platform to ensure your success, not only today, but in the long term, in the long haul of, the execution of what you've implemented here with us. All right, that's all I got for you guys.
Thanks, Sammy. Again, great update. And, we are here every Wednesday, but we are also on LinkedIn. We're also on the top left, the website. You could reach out to us. So tell us what you're doing. We'd love to hear your stories. We'd love to have you on the Transformation Leaders podcast. We have several people who are asking to be on our podcast. We're being asked to join other people's podcasts. So wonderful feedback that we're getting from you. Leave a comment, go on LinkedIn, engage in the conversation. We'd love to hear what's going on in your world.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.